Hello, and welcome to The Curious Senior. Curiosity has no age limit, and here, seniors share their passions and talents with each other. So, let's stay curious, stay creative, and explore together.
Hi, I'm Sandy Fryc, and I'm a beekeeper, and I'm here today to tell you all about my hobby. I had a couple of friends who were beekeepers, and the Worcester County Bee Association was having a class. It was February of 2020, and I'll never forget, my daughter's like, it's going to be you and like 6 other people. And I got to Grafton High, and there was well over 300 people, all ages, really interested in beekeeping. So, and a former school committee member, Mark Murray, did it, and Dana Canzano. So I'm like, yeah, my kids are grown, I'll try it. Worcester County Bee Association has a class that teaches you all about bees, and then how to build your hive, how to maintain a hive, how to inspect a hive, and it's excellent. It's the oldest beekeeping association in the country, and some very dedicated members. So you learn from them, and then you have a mentor who helps you, because you're bringing in like 3,000 bees that will sting you, and like you need to make sure that you know what to do and also take care of them. When you become a beekeeper, you have to buy a hive. So that's what I went in earlier, the beehive. It's called a brood box. You have a bottom box, is where I have an 8-frame hive. There's 8 and 10. 8 is just less weight to lift. And you have your frames, and then a bottom board, a top cover, and you learn how to feed them, but then you also have to buy your bees. You can order them through the Worcester County Bee Association, and it's actually, or through another member they go down south, they will actually get them and bring the bees up. They're called a package. You pick up your package. It's a box with frame and a screen with about 3,000 bees. So there's different types of frames. Mine have a wax coating already on them. Some have wire, but I like the ones with the wax. The bees will be in there. They'll start building out their comb. You have a queen. She starts laying eggs, and you have what's called brood. So they're making brood, which is the baby bees. And then they're also starting to store honey. They'll usually start around the outside of the frames, brood in the middle, and it's a colony that starts it's about every 6 weeks the bees die. So, in 6-week intervals, the bees will die off. They basically work themselves to death, and then they die off, and the new bees are replacing them. Bees definitely have seasons, especially in the Northeast. Down south, it's a continual cycle. Here, around November, December, the queen will stop laying eggs. They go into the center of the hive, and they kind of build a ball around the queen. In the hive, I think it's about 93 degrees. Even if it's 5 degrees out here, the center of the hive around the queen will stay warm so that she can survive through the winter. And they use the honey that they've stored as their food. So in the south, you would be probably taking a lot more honey out of your hive. Here, you have to have about 50 to 60 pounds of honey for them to survive through the winter. Come January, February, if it gets a little warmer, the queen starts laying eggs again, and the process starts all over again. Queen bees can die, usually about 2 to 3 years is their lifespan. I think some are longer, but as they get older, their egg-laying capabilities taper off, just like in a human. So people requeen their hives, where you go and you buy a mated queen from someone who is a beekeeper, and you kind of get the hive going again. So you have the worker bees, which are all the female bees. The hive is predominantly female. And again, they decide if they need more female bees or if they need male bees. And then their drones are the males. Their only purpose is to mate with the queen. They don't really do any work in the hive. They're kind of lazy. So this time of year, and I actually have some video of the female bees will start dragging the male bees, the drones, out and throwing them out of the hive, because they don't want them in there to keep eating the food through the winter. If the queen bee dies, or if the queen bee is not healthy, the hive may decide to kill the bee, the queen, because they're making a new one. They're going to make a new one to replace her. So the hive is, The bees control everything that goes on. And the queen, if she's good, they're going to keep her. But if not, they will kill it and produce a new one for the hive. I don't know how physiologically they do it. All I know is that once the egg is laid by the queen, they decide that that egg will now turn into a queen cell and becomes the larger queen bee. And I don't know how it works. That's something I should look into, but it's very interesting because you will open a hive and it's a long cell they build on the bottom of a hive, and you know they might be ready to swarm, which means they'll leave, or that there's something wrong with the queen, or they're just testing to see if they can build another queen in their hive. Bees will periodically decide to leave for a lot of reasons. Could be overcrowding. So I have 2 boxes on my hive, which means there's 16 frames, so it's room. Some people go 3, 4 hive, boxes high. If they're overcrowded, that's a reason they may split. And what they do is the bees decide, we're going to take this queen, and they say, you're going to come with us, and the rest of the bees will stay. And you go in, and you can find your hive is half depleted, and they've made a decision, and they tell who's coming and who's going with the new queen. Sometimes they leave a queen cell for the hive to regenerate. Sometimes there's no queen left, a cell, and you have to then go buy a new queen if you want to have the hive survive. You can harvest honey. I have not been a successful honey harvester, I'll say. My very first year, I had a really good supply of honey, and I did have some at the end of last year. And it depends, again, on the strength of your hive, if they're really good at storing honey. Is it a wet year? Is it dry? Do you have plants around that they can pollinate and get nectar from? So you never know what it's going to bring. There's definitely diseases in bees. Mites is a big thing. You have to treat your hive for mites. It's a chemical treatment. There are some non-chemical ones. It doesn't work as well, but it's probably the worst thing. Well, not the worst. It's one of the things that can really affect the hive. There's also a foul brood, which is a horrible thing that bees can get. And if that happens, you have to actually close up the hive, and they recommend that the hive be burned because it can pass it on to other honeybees and wreck, pollinators around you. I think beekeeping can be dangerous, and I've been stung many times. It just depends on, you have to go in, you have to be kind of thoughtful and quiet, and you don't want to drop anything. You can have strong hives are usually a little more aggressive, and my hive this year is a little more aggressive, and it's a strong hive. So it just depends on the year, and there are other people who have never been stung, ever. So you never know. I would say my most memorable moment, now I wear a full suit, I wear Ugg boots. It could be 90 degrees out when I'm going in. You usually check your hive about once a week. My first year I wore, it's called a half veil, and I just had on, I think, wide leg pants. I must have gotten 20, 25 stings in my legs. They will find any opening if they're agitated. So that's when I learned. Bee smoker is something that's a tool, probably one of your most important tools. And when you put cool smoke, it calms the bees down, and it helps. They sense pheromones, so they're not able to sense that from each other. So hopefully they'll be less agitated. I think going into my hive today, it's fall. They're storing their food. They don't want anybody getting in the way of their food supply, so they tend to be a little more aggressive as you get closer to winter because there's less food for them to bring in. So having a smoker is really important. It's a fascinating hobby. You can talk all the facts about bees. They're very resourceful, they're hardworking, super clean. It's really good for the environment. Our gardens are much better in our yard because we have bees. I have more flowers, our vegetable garden, because as soon as they see a source of pollen and nectar so close, everything just grows bigger, looks better. So we've been happy with it.
Thank you for joining us on The Curious Senior. If you enjoyed today's episode or have ideas for future topics, we'd love to hear from you. Remember, you're never too old to learn something new, and sharing your talents with fellow seniors keeps us all inspired. Stay curious, stay inspired, and we'll see you next time.